Hi everybody, this is Craig Tanner for the Mindful Eye and the Daily Critique. Today's image was created by Kel, who's from Atlanta. Kel shot this image with a Canon 50D 10 to 24 Tamron zoom at 10 millimeters. Effective focal length here is 16 millimeters. Very wide. And this is an HDR shot. That's high dynamic range. Just when we take a series of exposures and combine them to present a dynamic range that would be the range from the brightest thing in the scene to the darkest. We end up expressing a dynamic range that is much longer or wider or more than we could capture in one frame. And to do the HDR work, Kel used Photomatix, and she also used Photoshop Elements 9. And I just go ahead and say now, one of the things that I like about this image is that even though I know it's HDR from the backstory information, it's not been pushed so far from a dynamic range standpoint that it doesn't look photographic anymore. It's a really beautiful job of showing a lot of detail here in what I could imagine would be a really high contrast situation, without just getting to the point where this looks like illustration. And I'm a pretty big traditionalist when it comes to photography, and can enjoy HDR in a lot of situations, but the real extreme HDR for me pushes so far away from photography that if it's sitting there in a standalone situation, not in the context of a bunch of other extreme HDR, for me a lot of times that will create a distraction in my mind, but that's personal. The other thing that I wanted to mention here relative to Kel's backstory in this subject matter, this is a very famous home. It's on a lot of tours in Savannah, Georgia. It's the Thomas-Owens house. And Kel has shot the house from the side. The front view is over here facing one of the squares in Savannah, and this is the view that most people think of or see or photograph if they visit this house. So another thing that I really enjoy about this image, in addition to what I feel like is a light hand on the HDR processing, is shooting this home and showing it to me in a way that is novel or new. I've seen lots of pictures of this house, and I've never seen it shot from the side and shot in away from the side, where we're not just looking at a detail, let's say, of wrought iron. We're looking at a finished view of the house, and you almost get the sense that this could be the front of the house. Is one of the neat things about a lot of old classical home designs, is that a lot of them have that aspect of design where they could be approached not just from the front but maybe from the back or the sides, and there would be a sense of a finished feeling in the architecture that could be the front. So I'm really enjoying Kel taking her own view of this. Other things that I like about this shot, I love the combination of sort of orange blue or yellow blue color complements. Shooting this image at this time of night and processing it the way it's been processed and really bringing out the blue here really helps to complement the dominant color idea on the house. And I love the way you get a third color idea, the green that you see on this home in both the wrought iron and in the shutters. I love seeing the stars up here adding to the feeling of night. I like the way Kel has shot this and turned this point source of light that she's shooting into a graphic or a star. We can get there by shooting at our smallest apertures, but we have to remember, if we go to f16 or f22, to take the sun or some other point source or point sources of light and turn them into the graphic of a star, which I think can be a heck of a lot more appealing than just having a blob of light. At these small apertures, we will get diffraction, a loss of overall sharpness. One of the things that I'll do in these situations is shoot at f16 or f22 to get my either sun star or light star, and then shoot another frame or frames at medium apertures and then combine those so that I get the best of both worlds, the stars on the lights and more overall sharpness on the shot itself. The main thing that I want to do, if I want to talk about a perfect world variation for this shot, is actually increase the emphasis on this area right here in the shot, push towards more of a feeling of this is the anchor, like a place to come into the house. One of the things that Kel mentioned in her backstory, she had a sign that she took out and then she forgot to take the shadow of the sign out, and I did that on this first layer, the background copy. So there is the shadow. It's right here from the sign, and it's creating a diagonal pull away from the door. And I'm just going to use the clone tool and the healing brush on a separate layer to get rid of that. So one more time, there's the before and there's the after. And the nice thing about shooting architecture and these kinds of issues is so much of the time in architecture you have a lot of repetition based on pattern, like the pattern of the brick on the sidewalk here and the wrought iron can make it really easy to patch or to clone or to do this kind of work if we have a shadow or something reflecting off of the building that's a distraction. Second thing that I did here was I came in and strengthened the star effect here even more. If we were to zoom in, and let's just do it here, I'm going to lose the image, I think. No, yeah, I did. Let me change the screen viewing mode and move this and zoom in a little bit more. The lower part of this star is very graphic, and then it starts to blotch up here. I just came in and chopped this in half, put that on its own layer, flipped it, and moved it around a little bit to create more of a feeling of a graphic. You could also do cloning in here to do that. I'm just trying to tighten up that area. The idea here is that this is really high contrast, and what I'm trying to do is create a finished feeling of spokes on the wheel so that this is contained, and if it's contained and symmetrical and graphic, it sort of sits there and doesn't draw as much attention to itself, pulling away from other things. So that's the idea. Here's the before, and there is the after. Before and after, just cleaning that up and just making it a little bit more of a consistent circle. I did that work pretty rough, fast. I could have taken my time and created even more of a graphic spokes on the wheel feel with that part of the image. Let's go back down and change the screen viewing mode and look at the whole image again. Okay, after I did that work, I came in and I wanted to lighten this area right in here, and I wanted to do that so that it wouldn't have so much pull and I could put more emphasis on this. And there's so little detail here that might be difficult to do this work using curves or levels. So what I did was I used a patch. I copied this information here, put it on its own layer, moved it up, lined it up, and then used the layer mask to paint away the edges in a very, very low opacity to just knock down some of the highlights up there a little bit. And I'll do this quite a bit on architecture versus trying to use curves or levels. So many different ways to do things in Photoshop. Here's the before, and there is the after. So it's real subtle, just knocking that down a little bit using that patch effect. Why did I use the patch instead of curves and levels? Sometimes doing this work using curves and levels, it'll just start to have a gnarly kind of one-dimensional feel to it. You won't have the feeling of local texture and local contrast. And by using a patch, a lot of times I feel like I can get a little bit more of a naturalistic feel of knocking down something that's a highlight. Then I came in with a curves adjustment and I brightened some of the highlights in the tree over here. I did that to try and balance the highlights on this side. I feel like if I do a better job of balancing these two sides, that it will let this in the middle stand up a little bit more. So one more time, there's the before and there is the after. I came in on this layer and I added a lot more green, and I did it like this. I added green in here, I added green in here, and I added a heck of a lot more green to that one shutter that's getting the light. And what I'm trying to do is put some green out in here so we can keep the balance feeling all the way across, but have the concentration of green here so that you have this combination of a harmony of this color on this axis so that we have kind of a feeling of balance, but then concentrate the green in here in the middle. It's the odd color out, and if I have the concentration of it here in this opening, or this feeling of being able to come in the door, I feel like that draws more attention. One more time, there's the before and there's the after, and then at the end here I did a levels adjustment to set a new white point and apply some of that locally to pop the contrast out here. Before and after. Before and after, and you can see that whole idea come forward as if there's more dimension in the shot. It's not just so much 2D anymore. You feel like that whole area, the columns, the area over it, the architectural detail around the top, all that appears to move forward. Here is where we started, and here is where we have ended up. I mean, what I've done today, and you know, it's just sort of classical in terms of the processing that I typically do to images. It's not big dramatic things. It's little things that ultimately really have to do with value and color that will reset the emphasis relative to the way the image comes out of the camera. One more time, before and after. Fantastic image from Kel. I think really beautiful, subtle use of HDR techniques. Fantastic job of going your own way. One of the most profound things you can do when you find something that you want to shoot is walk all the way around it. Yeah, take in the normal view and shoot that, but walk all the way around it. See if there's another way to see it. Creativity is taking things that are already there and then combining them to create something that's new. that also ends up having an impact, maybe in a variety of ways. I think this is a very, very creative shot of a very iconic home in Savannah. Big thank you to Kel. She really helped out with our weekend event in Savannah, Backyard Shots, which is her website. In addition to being my webmaster, she came with Backyard Shots, helped in a lot of ways promote the weekend. Big thank you to Tamron for supporting our weekend. Just fantastic. The lenses that they had, and Ken, the person who came from Tamron, just how positive he was, what a great attitude he was, how much great energy he added to the event. And huge thank you to any of you that were listening, that were there. We just had a great time together in Savannah. It was so much fun. I want to say a big thank you to West Norman for also sponsoring the event, big part of our community. Big thank you to you for being here. Hope to see you again very, very soon on the Mindful Eye.